Hello everybody. In this video, we're going to look at 10 phrases my mother used to tell my brother and I when we were children. And with this video, we're going to actually smash that reputation that I have of being rather stodgy and a little bit boring on my YouTube channel. With this video, you might want to turn on subtitles if you're not an advanced speaker, because we might be using new vocabulary. And even if you are an advanced speaker, there will be some phrases that we used in the center of the United States, in the Midwest, that you might not be familiar with. There's another interesting thing I would love to hear about from you in the comments. Did you have or do you have a similar phrase in your own language that your parents or you, if you were a parent, used towards your children? Let me know in the comments. Let's begin. The phrase number 1.
Listen here, buddy boy.
My mother would use this phrase when we got a bit chippy or didn't want to obey her wishes. Buddy, as many of you may know, is a slang or informal word for friend. When you say buddy boy, it has sort of a very stern, serious tone to it. And she would use this whenever I was being stubborn or my brother was being stubborn and didn't want to listen. Listen here, buddy boy. Listen to your mother. Phrase number 2.
Watch your tongue, young man.
Now, she used this if my brother or I talked back to her. If you talk back to someone, it means that you contest what they're saying. You start an argument, and you might even use some strong language, not swearing, because swearing was prohibited in our household, but stronger language would elicit this response from my mother: watch your tongue, young man. And tongue, of course, is in English not used for language. It's simply part of the body. But tongue, of course, is a metaphor for watch your language. Watch your tongue, young man. The third phrase or sentence she used a lot is one of my favorites.
If I told you once, I told you 1,000 times.
This was a phrase she used when she was frustrated with her children. When she had repeatedly said this over and over in the past, and we still fell afoul. We still had problems following her directions. And so when this occurred, she would utter this phrase. This was often heard at the dinner table. If we ate too fast, I had a tendency as a boy to eat very quickly, and my mother would use this a lot. If I told you once, I told you 1,000 times, eat slower. Incidentally, she had another very favorite phrase at this moment. It was taste your food, young man, which means eat slower, because you're eating so quickly you can't possibly taste your food. The fourth phrase she often uttered,
this isn't a restaurant.
And this occurred whenever I or my brother made requests of my parents, as if we were in a restaurant and not at the dinner table. We ate every evening as a family. And we all had our duties as a family to set the table or wash the dishes. Mother cooked the food. Dad generally just ate it. But if we started to ask, could you get me this? Could you get me that? My mother would look at us and say, this isn't a restaurant. Get it yourself. Number 5. I think this is an international phrase.
Money doesn't grow on trees.
We heard this a lot growing up. Whenever we used to use up something that was expensive, or whenever we asked for something as a gift that was very expensive. Money doesn't grow on trees. One example of this is when we had the air conditioning on in the summer, but yet we left the window open. Accidentally, of course, my dad would get very angry and say, listen, money doesn't grow on trees. And then the other famous one is, we're not cooling the neighborhood. Number 6 brings back painful memories.
You're grounded.
Was the ultimate punishment for us as children. It meant that you were not allowed to go out of the house to visit your friends or play outside. So you're grounded for 2 weeks or for 1 week or for 2 days. This was a punishment that meant you couldn't go out and play with your friends. There weren't many reasons to be grounded, but one of them might have been talking back to mother or not doing the home tasks that we were assigned, whether it's mowing the lawn or cleaning the room, but it was generally something more serious. And if that was the case, we were grounded. Number 7 is a very funny one.
Stop touching your brother.
Now, this requires a bit of explanation so we don't get this out of context. I played 2 sports in school, baseball and wrestling. And wrestling involves, of course, bringing down your opponent and trying to pin them off their shoulders to the ground. I loved wrestling. My brother hated it. And consequently, we always had problems because I wanted to wrestle or practice wrestling. He wanted no part of the sport. And would then, the minute I went into his room and tried to wrestle, he would then yell to mother that I'm in his room and that I'm trying to wrestle. And then my mother would inevitably yell from the kitchen. She spent most of the time in the kitchen, always cooking something, saying, "Chris, stop touching your brother." Very funny. Number 8 is also a very sore subject around the house and brought back a few, but not many, thankfully, bad memories.
You're not getting up till your plate's clean.
I'm wondering how many of you have heard this. You're not getting up until your plate's clean. This occurred at dinner time. Mother was an amazing cook, but once in a while she served a dish that I didn't like, and I didn't want to eat it. And mom and dad had very clear rules in the house. What you ask for and put on your plate, you eat. And there were a few times where I had buyer's remorse. This is a very funny way of saying I asked for it, I tasted it, and thought, I don't like this. It didn't matter. You had to eat it and finish it. And so we had these standoffs at the dinner table where I would just sit there not wanting to eat the food because I didn't like it, secretly trying to feed the dog with the food, while my parents stood steadfast in their resolve not to let me leave the table until all the food was off my plate. Number 9 and number 10 were 2 responses my mother said that there was no rebuttal to. There was no rejoinder. This was the end of the conversation. Number 9 is...
because I said so.
So we were having a heated argument or disagreement. And when I say heated, it wasn't very heated because you couldn't yell at your mother. You were just disagreeing politely. But the minute mother said, "because I said so," the discussion was over. Whether I agreed with it or not, it doesn't matter how many times I said, "but why?" Once she said, "because I said so," I then knew I had to do it, even though I didn't want to. And finally, number 10 was the best one, and the one that frustrated me more than any.
Because I'm your mother.
Mom, why do I have to do that?
Because I'm your mother and I asked you to.
And at that point, you throw up your hands, you stay frustrated, and you go do it. I'm wondering which of these 10 phrases you heard in your home or the equivalent in your own language. Let me know in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel and tell a friend about these memorable phrases. Thanks for watching, and see you soon.